Against this right back, Charlie, definitely.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on.
As the big man Ian Wright just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good night. Hope you've all had a progressive weekend. I hope this weekend is great for you lot. As we know, it's the transfer window. We're all wondering why Arsenal haven't signed any players. Again, I don't work for the club, but I'd urge caution, and I reserve the right to obviously question why we haven't got signings in. But remember, we're a long way away from the deadline closing, people. So let's reserve wholehearted judgment. We don't know what Mikel Arteta, Edu, and those that make the decisions at the club are doing. But in relation to this show, again, Smith Rowe is subject to speculation from a couple of clubs. 1 minute is Crystal Palace, then it's obviously Fulham. Chido Obi Martin's been linked with Manchester United. Apparently, he's even visited their training ground. The speculation for the young talented striker remains. We've been linked with both Nico Williams and Pedro Neto. There's some Gabriel Jesus and Ivan Toney stuff, and we've got a bunch of things to go over, people. So if you allow me to share my screen, let's get straight into it. Now, as we know, Smith Rowe is a man that has 2 years left on his deal, starved of first team football, and his future remains subject to speculation. There are some sources that remain Mikel Arteta rates him and wants him to be part of the squad. Equally, you know, Emil Smith Rowe doesn't want to necessarily leave Arsenal, but first team football for the 23, 24-year-old, it has to happen now. You know, last 2 years, through injuries, through the team evolving and things like that, he's been robbed of first-team football, significant first-team football. Fabrizio Romano has said he understands Crystal Palace are set to bid for Emil Smith Rowe. Fulham had proposal rejected by Arsenal this week, and now Palace set to try, as Oliver Glasner really wants him. And to be fair to him, he is a Croydon lad. Crystal Palace is in your neck of the woods. You know, the new Crystal Palace manager, in a short time, he's probably been a revelation for Crystal Palace fans. They provide exciting football. You know, I don't know how long he'll be there, but you've got Eze, you've got Gurhi, you get a couple of players in, it could be great. And, you know, in terms of a maverick, you know, Smith Rowe could be that Elise replacement. And obviously it provides him, provided he earns the right to start, platform to play football, express his talent, and remind everybody how good he is. Now, for me, I'm a big fan of Smith Rowe. I hope we don't sell him. But equally, you know, if you can raise funds with the Emil Smith Rowes, the Ramsdales, the Nketiahs, the Nelsons, you know, Kivior, and all the other players that have been subject to speculation / already departed the club or in the process of departing the club, that obviously helps us bring in some players, which what Mikel Arteta wants, to obviously have a bigger squad and fight for major honours next season. We need to win some silverware. So if it's a necessary evil, it's a necessary evil, people. Before we carry on, I actually forgot to bring this one as well. TalkSport have had their own article on Smith Rowe. Now, we know a lot of people are going to say the same stuff. As we know, Crystal Palace are preparing a £30 million offer. You'd imagine that would whet the appetite for Arsenal. Fulham have already tabled an offer worth 25 million, which has been rejected by Arsenal. It's understood that the Gunners would be willing to part company with the midfielder if they received 35 million. Allegedly, Napoli and Aston Villa, who are in the Champions League, and Unai Emery is the manager, obviously are still interested, and apparently we rejected bids from him in January. He's got 2 years left, rightly so. Arsenal would like to receive decent money. If we were, regardless of Smith Rowe's injuries, his length of contract, and I hate to say it, but fall from grace of sorts, if we was trying to buy Smith Rowe from other Premier League clubs, they wouldn't cut us any deals. And, you know, Crystal Palace, they're not going to get bumped. But, you know, Crystal Palace, you just got decent money for Elise from Bayern Munich. Fulham, you just sold Paulinho. We know you lot got money. Obviously, if I was these clubs, I'd be trying to lowball, because that's just how negotiations go. And I'd be harping on about Arsenal's need to make funds, Smith Rowe needing to push for first-team football, and obviously 2 years left on his deal. I hope he doesn't leave, man, really and truly, if I'm completely honest. I'm a big fan of Emil, but it is what it is. Moving away from Emil Smith Rowe, Team News and Ticks has said Arsenal believe Declan Rice is better suited to be an 8 over a 6, as he can do both in terms of attack and defense in the 8th position without getting caught due to his athleticism. So that might, in part tell you that we're looking for a 6 rather than an 8, really. But I would like to have, Declan Rice, another 6 and another 8, within the next 2 years, because Jorginho and Thomas Partey are not going to be here forever. It wouldn't be an Arsenal transfer window if we wasn't linked with Rabiot. He is a free agent. There has been some reports that he's keen to move to the Premier League. Arsenal, Manchester United and Liverpool have all been name dropped. Technically, he spent time at Manchester City's academy as well, so it's somewhat of a return. Team News and Tix has said, if Barcelona can't get Nico Williams done because of financial reasons, then Arsenal are positioning themselves. He's our top choice. Arsenal tried really hard to get him before Euro 2024, but Barcelona was his preference. So if Barcelona is his preference, if they're trying to sort out their negotiating stuff, their negotiating position and also finances, Nico Williams won't wait forever, but surely he will wait for Barcelona to get things done. There's also some reports that we wanted to get a deal done for Nico Williams before the Euros. And there's actually some reports that Barcelona are keen to take out a loan to finance the deal for Nico Williams. But, if we're able to get him, if he has a change of heart, let's keep it moving. Team News and Tix has also said people within the Arsenal squad, is that the players or the coaching staff, I think Gabriel Jesus is a top 5-9 in the world at his best. That's how highly they rate him. I mean, I'm backing Gabriel Jesus. I'm not giving up on him. I know the injuries and whatnot, but if this man can stay fit, he could be a great player for us. I don't think he'll ever score, the goals that we require, but Gabriel Jesus is perfect, man. You remember those first 6 months, and I can understand the frustrations, but I think fans turn on players very quickly. I'm backing Jesus. In fact, hot take, he's going to have a great season next year. And apparently he's fired a title warning to Liverpool and Manchester City people. He has warned title rivals that Arsenal are coming this season as they aim to end their 21-year wait for a league title. I hope so, man. It's easier said than done. What specifically did he say? What did he say? He said, we're coming. I mean, pause. I mean, talk about clickbait, innit, really. Charles Watson said, I've always been told this is the summer that Charlie Patino leaves Arsenal. That could change, but I've always been of the expectation he was going this summer one way or another. And I would love to see another Haylander come through. Realistically, you've got Partey, Jorginho ahead of you, Fabio Vieira. We don't know whether Smith Rowe's coming or staying, but he's probably ahead of you in that central midfield. Declan Rice is obviously there. The option of Kai Havertz and probably Martin Odegaard and maybe even Trossard in midfield roles ahead of him. And that's before we talk about the Zuba Mendes, the Morenos, the Onanas, who's going Aston Villa, and several midfield links to Arsenal Football Club, really. And, he can play as a 6, but I think he's more of a box-to-box 8, deep-line playmaker kind of guy. And he needs to play first-team football, really. And in line with, obviously, Mika Beref leaving and a couple of departures, I think he's someone that will just raise funds for the club, really and truly. So we wish him all the best. I think he's got a great mentality to go with his technical ability. So we wish him all the best. Bologna are asking for 50 million plus 3 million euros for Calafiori. Arsenal's offer is 47 plus 3 million. So it's a £3 million difference. So hopefully we can get over the line. Basel do not wish to reduce the 50% sell-on clause even by a fraction. Bologna are waiting for an improved Arsenal offer in the next 2 to 3 days under the terms they want. Bologna do not want to give Calafiori to Juventus, but have okayed Rigani signing despite no talks between them and Juventus. So yeah, people, I'm getting quite bored of speaking about Calafiori. West Ham apparently are viewed as the front runners for Reece Nelson, as his future is subject to speculation. There are some reports that he's told Arsenal he intends to leave. But Marseille are bidding for Eddie Nketiah and would offer around 20 million for, but insiders are saying the Gunners would want more. I mean, 30, 35 plus a sell-on clause is just about right, people. Once again, people, if Barcelona can't get a deal done for financial reasons, Arsenal allegedly are positioning themselves on the Nico Williams front. He's our top choice. I know Arsenal tried really hard to get him before Euro 2024, but Barcelona was his preference. I mean, Yanni Euro is completely different, but that Euro guy has gone to Manchester United. His preference was Real Madrid. For some reason or another, the Real Madrid didn't happen, and he's now a Man United player. So there's always hope, but for me, there's an air of pessimism where Williams is concerned. Chido Obi Martin apparently visited Manchester United's training ground earlier this week to discuss a potential move to the club. The player is yet to agree scholarship terms. I mean, Manchester United, Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, all interested in you. You know what? If you think staying at Arsenal or going elsewhere is the best for you, why not? I think he's a quality player with a great future. But, I think a lot of people are up in arms where I know a lot of people have not watched him over 90 minutes. He's not there yet. He's a quality player and I hope he stays. And, you'd imagine he would feature heavily in the FA Youth Cup campaign for the under-18s. But you'd imagine he'd be our starting striker unless, assuming the more experienced players leave, Kyle Edwards may or may not be here. You'd imagine he'd be the first choice striker at under 21s level. So we'll have to see exactly what's going on. Maybe this could all be mind games to put pressure on Arsenal. If he leaves, great. I mean, if he leaves, it is what it is, great. If he stays, great. Just keep it moving, man. He won't be the first nor the last player of any club. Pedro Neto, with the greatest of respect to Fraz Fletcher, I have to add a bit of pessimism over the source because I don't know if you know what's really going on. If we can't get Nico Williams, then Pedro Neto will be great. Arsenal have held preliminary, I can never say that, but we've held talks with Pedro Neto's agent this week, and the players made it clear he's prioritising a move to Arsenal. The club view Neto as a potentially great addition to their forward line and have been told 50 million would secure the deal. I can't lie, let's try and negotiate it slightly more, but I think 50 million is fair value. The only thing you can say about Pedro Neto is injuries. He's someone that could compete / deputise on that right-hand side for Saka. He's a devil in a nice way on that left-hand side. He can play as a false nine, even though I don't want to see him there. And I don't think we can afford to end the transfer market without a striker or an inside forward. Ideally, you get both, if not either or. I don't think we have a strong enough front line. And it sounds mad because we got 91 Premier League goals, 100-odd goals in all comps, but we're doing this in spite of not having a recognized goal scorer. So I do think we need to buffer that, if I'm honest with you. Like, we've scored great goals, a high amount of goals in all aspects for the last 2 years, and we've improved our range of goals. We've seen Saka and Declan Rice scoring screamers, we've seen headers, we've seen a lot of things, but who is going to get them goals? That it wouldn't, you've got great players. Gabriel Jesus on his day. Kai Havertz is doing his thing. Saka, Martinelli, Trossard very well towards the end of the season. Kai Havertz found his goal scoring boots. Declan Rice had his greatest goal scoring season in his professional career. Odegaard didn't get the goals that he got the season before, but he still got a strong return. So you get where I'm going. Goals are spread out. Obviously, a couple headers from the centre halves, and even Benjamin White found his goal scoring boots. Everyone apart from David Raya, really. And I don't think Thomas Partey scored last season, but you get the point. Like, we will score goals, but who? Saka is the only one I can convincingly say I'll be shocked if you don't get double figures, because you've done it in the last 2 years. The rest, I'm not sure. DiMarzio did say yesterday there are Italian clubs interested in Kivio, who has been allegedly offered as a make-weight to Bologna. Inter Milan and Juventus at the moment tried only for a loan, but Arsenal did not give a green light. If they decide to sell the player, they want a permanent deal and not a temporary one. Fair enough. I think that Juventus could be interested because he'll be reignited with his former coach Thiago Motta. So it depends on which player Juventus will sell and how much, so we know the money they can spend on another defender. Bologna would have been a great opportunity. They're in the Champions League, but I can't begrudge Kivio if you want to reunite with Thiago Motta at Juventus, as well as the massive club that Juventus are at. Even if you are holding out for the Inters, the ACs, Napolis, Romas, they've all been linked. But again, are they going to put down an offer on the table that Arsenal want to accept, or a loan with an obligation to buy? These clubs always try and cheapskate the Premier League, essentially. Kivio needs to go and play first team football. If I was being a bit cynical and I said, I don't really care if Kivio wants to play or not, just in terms of a body, I'm keeping him at the club. There's 2 extra games in the new Champions League format. We want to go as far in the league, FA Cup, Champions League and Premier League as possible. We need bodies, really and truly. I would say 14 players currently without anyone else signing. Realistically, there's only 12 players that we really saw like that last season. Like, Trossard weren't on the bench towards the end of it, but just to make an example, let's just assume Trossard's on the bench. You've got whatever you say is the strongest 11, then it's the starting 11 and Trossard. That is the first choice. You could probably extend that to 14, Smith Rowe, Gabriel Jesus, Fabio Vieira, Zinchenko. They found themselves on the bench owing to good form, but that's not sustainable. We need to push that to about 20. So I do think there's a reality where both Kivio and Zinchenko could go, or both stay, or one of them go. Everything's up for debate, really. For Kivio, you're not going to get ahead of Gabriel. Calafiori signing makes things worse. I actually think, the only person you're ahead of at left back is potentially only Kieran Tierney. I think Arteta would bet on Zinchenko for the inverted stuff, for all his faults before you. I think Tomiyasu, Timber, obviously Calafiori would all play ahead of you. And then even at centre half, really, Saliba has shown he can play on the left-hand side for France. If anything happens to Gabriel, do you move Do you move Saliba over there and then take Benjamin White, who looks much better at right back than centre half? Not that he was bad there, and put Benjamin White there, or will Arteta bet on a Timber or a Tomiyasu before him, or even Calafiori and things of that ilk? You know, if push comes to shove, really extreme, and assuming we had the depth. Declan Rice played a couple of moments for at centre half for us last season. Could he be even an option? So it depends, man. I think Kivior is one that, as you can see, is offered in make weights. I don't think he's one that will be forced out the door, but the club are receptive to offers. Once again, West Ham are the front runners for Reece Nelson. The player is keen on the move. A fee of 15 to 20 million believed to be enough to sign him. You know what? You deserve to go and play football. I don't know if Arsenal will sanction Reece Nelson leaving before a winger comes in, but it's all about finances. If he gets a platform to play, and for him, he picks up a little injuries here and there. You know, when you're missing a 1 week, a 2 week, every other month, it adds up. So if he can stay fit and have a platform to play, I think Nelson could do his thing. And I'm not saying he's the big bad this and the other, but he could improve his stature in football than it is now, you know, and hopefully you pick Jamaica at international level, man. Trust me, forget England, bro. Forget England. Moving away from that, as we know, Bologna asked for Kivior during talks. The player wasn't keen on the move. Calafiori is still waiting to join our football club. There's been no offers from Saudi Arabia, says James Baines, where Thomas Partey is concerned. So there's no talk about departures. And he's also said he intends to fulfill the final year of his contract at Arsenal. The fact that Smith Rowe's got 2 years left, Zinchenko's got 2 years left, Partey's got a year left, and there's been, you know, things can change, but there's been radio silence, especially as we've been very proactive as a football club, not getting into these situations. Like, for instance, you look at Saka, you look at Saliba in particular, and you look at how good they're playing, especially the Euros on top of what they did last season. You go back a few years before we really got serious as a football club. How many times would we have seen those two players into the last year of their deal? And every week, 1 minute there's optimism, they're staying, and then they're not. So is it something that Arsenal will get round to, or is it not? Could it be not a coincidence that there's not been that? I don't know, people. So, yeah, just food for thought. Don't forget to hit the like button and let me know your thoughts. The Athletic have spoken about the USA tour, people. Obviously, we've got a lot of games. We play Bournemouth, Manchester United, Liverpool. What has it said here? They will return to Los Angeles, where they played Barcelona last year. So, LA settings, people. Partey, Gabriel Jesus, Odegaard and Tim will be part of that. Obviously, the players who participated at the Copa America and European Championships will have staggered returns. So in check, you know, the players that didn't get to the knockout stage will obviously return first, and then the players in the quarterfinals and the players in the semis. Apparently, Declan Rice and Saka will not join up with the club until they return. Well, their fellow players, until we get back to the UK. I personally think they'll jump back into training sooner rather than later, and for, you know, that. Would it be fair to say, people, Saka and Declan Rice probably played the most minutes last season, give or take? You know, I'd say them two and Saliba. Maybe, well, Saliba played every minute, so naturally him. Yeah, no, Saliba played every minute, so Saliba's first. And then it's probably Declan Rice and Saka. I'll probably say Saliba played the most minutes, Declan Rice second. And then there was a stage where, you know, when we was battering teams up and down the country and Saka was getting subbed. And I think Saka missed towards the end of last year, innit, really? So, yeah, man, there could be something. You know, Saka is not going to get a rest. He's not going to get a rest. So maybe there's something in mentally and physically just taking a few thingies off. Obviously, they've played in the Euro, so they're not good. It's not like they're not going to be able to run and whatnot, but I reckon they'll be back sooner rather than later. Obviously, Ethan Nonwary and Miles Lewis-Skelly are expected to travel to America, which would be great. Apparently, Aiden Heaven people could be traveling as well. Big up the centre half, who's actually been linked with Borussia Dortmund as well. Charles Sago Jr., Salahuddin, and Zayn Monlouise apparently all have a chance of being included. Ramsdale's on holiday, obviously. David Raya is still on holiday as well after his success in the Euros. Carl Hein, if I was you, I wouldn't want to go on the American tour. Get my loan spell wherever I'm going, let's go. But he could potentially travel. So in theory, we might not have, like, who's going to be in goal for half of these games? We know Tommy's set for the deal to sign him from Ajax is moving ever closer, people. Dan Bentley, we've made a bid, but again, we don't know when that's going to happen. Lucas Nordgaard, the 18-year-old Dane who we signed, probably does travel. And in terms of having legends, people, Gilberto Silva and Theo Walcott will be traveling. Would you just? I mean, Gilberto Silva's definitely Arsenal legend, or he's up there, he's invincible. But Theo Walcott, really? fan favorite, but you're not a legend. Respectfully, you know, because you know if we ever get in, if you pick up your team, Smith Rowe, Reece Nelson, and Ketia, they probably all will travel despite their futures also being subject to speculation. I promise people, I'm as bored as you lot with this Calafiori stuff, but I have a job to do. Arsenal yet to seal Ricardo Calafiori deal as Bologna stay firm over fee. They want 42 million to be paid up front. Apparently, he's agreed a 5-year deal. So if he's agreed a 5-year deal, and we've clearly been given permission to speak to him, and obviously we've signed a player in Tomiyasu from Bologna before, there must be a bit of willingness to get a deal done, or confidence that anything can happen, but confidence that we're going to get this deal done. It's just a bit of both teams playing, you know, playing a bit of poker and seeing which side is going to break first. So I'm not too sure, people, in that regards. We'll have to see. But is it disappointing? Because I would have loved for Calafiori to, you know, well, I hope we wake up tomorrow and he's signed and he's on the plane to America, you know, go and, you know, make friends with your new teammates and learn what Arteta wants you to learn. So at this point, we're not going to learn anything new in that regards. Apparently, Ivan Toney's price tag has been slashed to less than 60 million euros. Some actually say they'll accept 30 to 40 for him. And we all know he's keen to leave. I don't think Ivan Toney would be amazing, but would he be the worst? Apparently, Arsenal, Chelsea, and United have all pulled out the race. So running down his contract, or maybe even signing a new deal, I can't be ruled out, really. And, you know, to be honest, I think Spurs should go and get him. Apparently, there's been something of a disconnect between what Arsenal say and what Arsenal do when it comes to Smith Rowe. The club have made it clear on several occasions now they do not want him to leave. Aston Villa, West Ham and Chelsea came last summer, but were given the short shrift. West Ham tried to get the 23-year-old again in January, but the deal was a non-starter. We all know he only started 4 games in all comps last season. He did have some injuries as well, people. Apparently, Arsenal find themselves in another position in that regard. And, you know, while Mikel Arteta rates him, he obviously, you know, could really depart. And he said he's a joy to watch. I mean, if he's a joy to watch, give him some minutes, big man. Apparently Calafiori's also returned to training with Bologna as well as they begin their own preparations. We know previously Pedro Neto said he's an Arsenal fan, and he said his love for Arsene Wenger, and he's also said when he was a kid he grew up watching Arsenal. So let's make this kid's dream a reality. We've been presented with the chance allegedly to sign Rafinha. As you know, that we tried to sign him before. Nico Williams, Barcelona want to bring him in. They probably need to sell players. So, you know, if it wasn't for the injury, Araujo, Frankie de Jong, even Gundogan now, as well as Rafinha, they're going to be linked with moves away, Asu Fati, etc. I mean, if it became available, why not? I suppose really to at least listen. And apparently Rafinha is keen on a return to the Premier League, but he's stronger off the right-hand side. Oh, so is Pedro Neto, but Pedro Neto can perform off the left. Rafinha's had games where he's looked good off the left, but I think there's quite the contrast in his performances. Are you going to join Arsenal knowing that you never know, you might be able to take Saka's spot, but Saka's the big dog. He's going to play. You're essentially number 2. You never know, but are you going to make that move? I'm not too sure. Or are you going to go to a club where it's more obvious you're going to be the guy? Arsenal still hope to not only get a Nico Williams deal done, but where Real Sociedad midfielder Mikel Moreno is concerned, we're still trying to get that done. Some reports say we've began talks. As we know, the 28-year-old who has previously played in the Premier League with Newcastle is in the final 12 months of his deal, and then he has apparently a price tag over his head of 25 million euros, which equates to about 20 odd million quid, or maybe even 19. Who knows? And once again, Sports Witness are saying we're in talks with him. How true that is, I don't know. But in relation to all of that, people, that's all there is for me to give on this Friday afternoon. Again, any other emerging news, rumors and talking points, you know you'll get videos. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed here. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Most importantly, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.